Hey guys, welcome to round 4 recap of my tournament, Oskemen Open. Today I was playing Yarasil Jakan, a talented young Kazakhstani player who threw the kitchen sink at me. He sacrificed everything. He played a crazy game. Let's take a look at this. This was very impressive. So I'm playing with the white pieces, and this is the Sicilian defense. This is the line that I usually play against it. It's already the second time in this tournament that I face this knight d4 response. Here my opponent played a6. My opponent from round 2, if you remember, played e6 here, and I castled, and we got an interesting position, but he outplayed me. But this time a6 is what I faced. Bishop d3 is standard. G6 takes. I take here because black wants to go bishop g7, and then I will not be able to double the pawns. If I take then black will be able to take with the bishop. So I take now, I drop back, I try to put pressure on this pawn. Yes, it is a central pawn, it controls some important squares, but it is also a pawn that can be attacked. So it's a double-edged sword, so to say. He defends the pawn with the bishop, I put more pressure on the pawn, and here my opponent decided to go e5 to protect it. I thought for some time maybe I should take, but I decided, you know what, he'll go d5 eventually, and these doubled pawns will no longer be doubled, and I decided not to resolve tension just yet. I decided to castle. The computer agrees that this is the best move. Around here was where I vaguely remembered what I should do, but I did not remember precise move by move the theory, because it's not really a highly theoretical line. You just have to know the plans for white and black to play it. So there is no heavy theory here. He goes d5 here, a very principled move for striking in the center. I take. And here, of course, he could have taken by the queen, in which case I thought that I'll think what I'll do, but at least I can do this at the very least. And if he takes here, I can go rook e1, and his king is still in the center, so I can put some pressure. But he didn't take with the queen. Here, instead, he decided to go knight e7 to put the knight on d5 instead of the queen, or at least to keep his options open. And here, if I take here, this would be very funny. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 pieces of white on the adjacent squares on the d file. It would be a fun show to watch. He would have taken and put more pressure here, so I didn't like this variation. The computer says it's equal, but yeah, taking is not the best move. I actually found one of the best moves. So actually it's the first line of the engine. Queen a4 check. It's a subtle move. The idea is that I was expecting him to block with the bishop, and then I wanted to drop back to b3. And the idea is that you might ask, why don't you just go queen b3 here with the same idea? Here it doesn't work that well, because the b7 pawn is protected, it is defended, and also this file is not blocked. So if we compare this position and the position that occurred in the game, check, and which could have occurred after bishop b7. So here the bishop on d7 is actually placed, positioned suboptimally. On c8 it would be better, because it would protect this pawn, and the queen would put pressure on d5. So this I was looking forward to. I still have this extra pawn. Maybe I'll go c4 next. Yes, I'm a little bit lagging behind in development, because this bishop is entombed and it needs some time to get out. But I decided that there is nothing concrete for my opponent. He's not like mating me or anything of that kind. Also, if he goes castles here, and if he goes f5 next, which is one of the plans for black, I have this annoying discovered check, d6 check, so he has to look out for this. Watch out for this. So I was feeling quite confident here that he'll go bishop d7, because I thought queen d7, yes, it's also a move, but I can trade and go into an endgame up a pawn, and I thought that only I can play for a win here. And I was right. And I was also right in my understanding that bishop d7 blocking with the bishop is still the best move. And after queen b3, there are various ideas for black. I thought maybe he can sacrifice this pawn on b7, and I decided that I probably will not take it. Actually, I was right. Wow. So yeah, the computer approves. So I thought we are going to get a game. It will be an interesting long game. But I was shocked that he was sitting at the board here and thinking and thinking and thinking. We each get 1.5 hours per game. And at this point, I had like 1 hour, 15 minutes. So I spent like 15 minutes. And he had around 1 hour, 10 minutes. And he went into a deep think. And he kept thinking. I was walking around. I was looking at other games of GMs, masters, my friends who are playing in the same tournaments. And he kept thinking. He kept contemplating this position. And I was like, what is he thinking? Is he thinking to go king f8? By the way, king f8 is one of the suggestions of the computer, but still it's not the best move. Of course, because your king is clumsy here. It prevents you from activating the rook. Maybe you will go h5, h4 and activate it like this, but it's not it's not the best idea. So I thought maybe he'll go king f8. Maybe he wants to double check everything. Maybe he's thinking what to do after bishop d7, queen b3, and maybe he's thinking whether to sacrifice this pawn after these moves, whether to sack the b7 pawn for activity. I thought it would be sensible for him, but he kept thinking, and after all, he spent half his time on this move, and I was very confused. I was like, what's up? What's happening? I thought maybe he'll go b5, but b5 is a bad move because I just take, and if he takes, I'll take the rook, and yeah, it's not good. And then he went b5, having thought for like half an hour. And I realized that it's actually not the worst idea, because it is a creative sacrifice in the spirit of Mikhail Tal, you know, the Soviet world chess champion who liked sacking pieces left and right. And he famously said that I want my opponent to go into uncharted territory where 2 + 2 = 5. I want to put my opponent into a dark forest where he will lose his mind. So my opponent, Yerasil Jakan, is young, but he probably has studied the games of Tal, because only Tal, I think, out of the world chess champions of the past would have come up with such an idea. I was sure that this is not the best move according to the engine. I was sure that the sacrifice does not work, but I was afraid that it will, that it might work, that I don't play like a computer. And the computer says, yeah, this is a mistake. Actually, the computer says this is the only mistake that my opponent made in this game. So bear with me. So, of course, I have to accept the sacrifice. If I draw back here, then I've wasted some moves, and he'll go bishop b7 and put pressure, and I'm worse. So the principled way to play here is to accept the sacrifice. And what do we have here? I have a rook and 2 pawns for a bishop. So I have a 4 points material advantage, but the position is very imbalanced, but the assessment of the position is that this is balanced by the counterplay of black. So the computer gives plus 1.67 as its evaluation, so not plus 4, although I have 4 extra pieces of points of material, because black has compensation, very significant compensation, because this piece is not participating. It is entombed, as I already said, this bishop. It's not getting out any time soon because my opponent goes d3 here, preventing me from going forward with this pawn. And this rook is also entombed, so I'm playing down 2 pieces. And his pieces are all active, and he has this pawn avalanche that is ready to march forward to attack my king, and he has the strong bishops that could get active, and this queen that could get active, and this knight that could get active and attack me. And I really liked this position for him. I was sure that it's objectively not good for him, but I realized that it's much more pleasant to play with black. This is more in my spirit. I like sacrificing, and he used my own style against me. So here I contemplated giving the piece back to fight for advantage in a different way. queen b8. Actually, it's the second top choice of the computer. The idea is that he can take my knight, but I'll check him. And if he blocks, I'll take on e2. And now he has 2 minor pieces for the rook, but I have a bunch of pawns. I'm still up 3 points of material. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pawns, and he has just 4 pawns. So I have a rook and 4 pawns for a bishop and a knight. A very unusual material imbalance. This could have happened, but I decided that it's dubious because he still has this crazy attack. He can go here, then this. Of course, I can go d4 and win this pawn, but he can castle. And if I take, he can go rook e8, put pressure on this pawn. So I didn't calculate up to this point. I'll calculate it to around this point, and I thought that actually he still has significant counterplay, and I gave him my knight. I wasn't sure whether I should do this. Also, I thought that he's not even obliged to take the knight here. I thought that he can take on d5. And here I thought I can go c4. And if he takes, I go knight c3. This is what I calculated as well. Putting pressure on his queen, and then he will drop back. But actually queen b5? Yes. Yeah, queen b5 forces a trade of queen. So I missed this when I calculated. I also thought that he can take with the queen. But turns out the computer disapproves, because b3, and then I go knight c3. Yeah, putting pressure on this pawn, and it cannot be defended. So this would have been good for me, but probably he would have taken the knight. And also there is an idea of castles here instead of taking the knight. Maybe this is what he would have chosen. And this is actually the best move for black. Wow, I didn't think about castles. So now my knight is still hanging. If I take, this is a similar position, but a better one for black, because black got the castles in. So extra tempo for black. And black is already a little bit better. Wow. Even though black is down 2 points of material. Wow. So crazy complications could have ensued. They still ensued, but I did not go queen b8. I decided, you know what, I'll go knight g3, and the computer approves. This is a top engine move. But maybe practically it would have been better to try to give the piece back, some material back to activate. I don't know. Could have, would have. This is not something I can speculate on. So here I thought he'll go f5 and try to attack me immediately, but he decided to castle first, which is excellent. One of the top choices of the engine. And here I spent a long time thinking. I was choosing between several moves. I thought I can go a4. I want to activate this rook to breathe life into my position, and then to activate this bishop. So a4. I rejected this move because I thought he'll go b4, sacrificing yet another pawn. Now I'm up 5 points of material, but my pawns are horrible, and this bishop is not seeing the light of day yet. And if I go, for example, b3 later on, he'll go e4 maybe, opening up this bishop. And he can take here, for example, jump in via these squares with the knight. And I didn't really like this position. Turns out the computer thinks that I'm still better, but I rejected a4. I thought, of course, if he takes here, it's a dream position for me. Now my rook is active, and next I'll go b3 or bishop a3, and I'm close to winning. But of course he wouldn't take. He'd go b4. So then I thought, what if I go b4? Myself, and then go a4. It's also an okay move according to the engine. It loses some of the advantage, but I decided that he'll take, and I decided how am I getting this bishop out, because these pawns prevent it from seeing the light of day. So I thought, well, b4 is not that clever, b3 is more clever. And I thought also of c4. Actually it's one of the decent moves in the position, but not the best one. The best one would have been a4, but I went b3 with similar ideas to put my bishop on a3. But I completely neglected one strong idea that my opponent has. Queen b6. He made this move almost instantly. And I realized that I'm in trouble now, and the evil bar agrees. So there is only one move in this position that allows white to not be very much worse. and I didn't see it. So I thought, what's the threat? What if I go bishop a3? The problem is that then my queen will will be caught, similarly to the previous game. It has no squares. So of course I can run with my queen. I can go to a3, queen a3 to get away from all this. But it's not good, because my queen, how is it going to get active? It has just one square to go to b2. From b2 it will never like magically teleport to the other side of the board. So the queen is not active, and the rook is not getting out, and the bishop is not getting out. They are all stumbling and trying to get out of the way of each other, those poor pieces, but they can't. So 3 pieces are not participating. I have just the knight and the rook guarding the king, and he has the queen, the knight, the bishop, maybe next this bishop, and maybe f pawn runs and the rook. So barreling down my position, this is, humanly speaking, this is lost already, even though I'm up material. So I decided, no, I will not run with my queen back to a3. I also thought of a4, but the problem is that he goes bishop b7, and I thought first initially that I have a5, like a clever move to make him go back, and then I go queen a7. But unfortunately, rook takes, I take the queen, and he takes the rook. The rook is hanging in the end of this variation, and yeah, it's not good. So these are the variations that I calculated here, and somehow I missed the best move, the only move, c4. c4 with similar ideas to what I showed you in a4. So if he goes here, for example, c5, and if he goes here, then queen a7. There is one square for the queen, and the queen survives. For example, he takes, I go c6. Now the queen can escape. If he takes here, bishop b2, and maybe the queen won't escape, but then I'll take his queen. So it's a good exchange for me because I'm up material. He has to drop back, and now the queen escapes. And currently I'm up an exchange, a rook for a bishop, but he's very active. The computer gives approximate equality, so it's a game, but at least I'm not worse and I'm not losing. Unfortunately, I completely missed c4. In this position, I just didn't think of this idea of c4. I considered other moves. And I was unhappy. I realized that he's outplaying me now. And I decided to force matters and to go d6, which is a mistake. That leads to a losing position already. But unless you see c4, what else can you do? Queen a3 is really bad, and other moves are even worse. So d6 is the third line of the computer. Unless you see c4, you play d6. There are no other moves, because queen a3 is close to losing. d6, at least I have some chances. So I calculated bishop b7, queen takes with check, takes, takes. This is the position. And I thought that my opponent should be better here, although I have the material advantage, but I underestimated his position. I didn't know that I'm already lost. And I am, unfortunately. Move 18, I play with white, and I'm lost. Because his 2 bishops and the queen are so impressive, are so active. Look at this bishop, it's a monster. Look at this bishop, it will be on c5, it will shoot like a sniper, and my position is collapsing, and this bishop is still not active, and this rook is still not participating, and this pawn is a thorn in my side, so it's horrible for me. And I realized that I'm in trouble here. So I thought, what if I go king h1, because his idea is bishop c5, and you will see what happened in the game. If I go king h1, he has just, for example, h5, and my knight has no squares. This is a problem. h4 is coming, and if I go f3, for example, to have this square for the knight, he can go f5, for example, and my knight still has no squares to go to, and next h4 will come. If I leave with the rook to e1, for example, to have the f1 square for my knight, queen f2 comes, and this is very bad. This is a checkmate coming very soon, because this is a threat with inevitable checkmate, and also my rook is hanging. So horrible. This is horrible. And I thought, initially I thought from afar, seeing this position, that I'm going to go king h1, f3, knight e4 if need be, a4, activate somehow, and try to have some counterplay on the queen side, but I don't have enough time. I didn't realize it at the time. And here I already realized it, and I realized that I'm in deep trouble. Okay, I went a4. I decided to give him this f2 pawn. I saw that he has bishop c5. And the problem is that now he has the threat of queen c6. For example, if I go a5, queen c6. Checkmate is hanging, and I cannot block with f3 because this is a pin. So I lose in a couple of moves. I will be checkmated. So a5 is out of question. The only move here is either a takes b5 or king h1. If a takes b5, he doesn't have queen c6 because the pawn controls the square, but he can just take this pawn. And still the threat is queen c6, so I have to go king h1. And he can just take this pawn, and I thought that this should be completely losing for me, because I can't even activate my bishop. Both squares are controlled by enemy's pieces, so this bishop will stay entombed here, and it's not the most active square for the bishop. So I decided against this, and I decided, you know what, I'll just give him this f2 pawn. I went king h1 and a5 in hopes of creating some counterplay at least. He dropped back. He has to stay guarding this bishop with the queen. This is important. And here I thought maybe I'll go a6, but I thought that it does nothing. Bishop a8, and he even frees up some squares for his queen. In future, he'll drop back with the bishop, and then his queen will infiltrate somehow and kill me, or he'll advance the pawns. So I decided, you know what, at least let this bishop block this queen. So I decided to finally activate my dark squared bishop, but of course I'm already hopelessly lost. Anything wins here. F5 is the most precise way to win, and my opponent finds it. The idea is to go f4, when again my knight has no moves, no squares. I decide to sack this knight, go bishop d6, f4, and I take, and I hope that he takes. But I see from afar that he has a better move. So if he takes, at least I can pretend. At least I can pretend if we exchange, for example, he has a queen and a bishop, but he's not checkmating me immediately, and I have some pawns. Maybe I can create some counterplay. Of course, this is lost, but at least I can pretend. But the fact is, and it's very annoying, my opponent played perfectly this game. After his sacrifice. He's a great player, and he's a young player. Definitely he will be rated much higher in future. He went f3, and yeah, I saw that move, but I could not do anything about it. And here I can resign already, because if I take, this is a beautiful checkmate. The two bishops combo work very nice. And if I don't take, this hangs. So I made one last move, rook g1, he took, and here I resigned after 25 moves, because if I take, he can take, I have to take, and then queen f2 leads to a mating. A couple of moves. I can prolong the agony, like bishop here, but yeah, he can take, and next move will be checkmate. So I lose in 25 moves. It's one of the most brutal losses with white pieces that I've ever had, I think. So kudos to my opponent for giving me this lesson. I'm very impressed, and yeah, what should I have expected? I'm one of the lowest seeded players in the tournament. Of course, I'm going to lose a bunch of games, but I still hope I can score some upsets and come back. I now have just half a point out of 4. 6 more rounds to go, so stay tuned. Drop a comment if you like this content, and if you believe in me, or if you believe that I should retire from chess. And see you in the next one. Bye bye.